Welcome to Wine with Bill, and I'm Bill. Today's guest, Jim Cargill, the COO and winemaker for House Family Vineyards, is a very interesting guy. He's a nice guy, but he's very interesting and very accomplished, and I'm thrilled to have him on the show today to talk about several subjects, including the wine philosophy of not only himself as the winemaker, but the winery, three generations, which is very important. It's House Family, it is a family, and kind of what's happening there, and we're going to talk about some of these beautiful bottles of wine. Jim, thanks for being here today.
Bill, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me. It's an honor. It's always exciting to be able to talk about kind of our family, our legacy business that we've put in. It's as you've mentioned, I'm Jim, and this is House Family Vineyards. And House is a family name. My father-in-law, Dave House, is how we get the name. And years ago, I married his daughter long before we put the vineyards in.
Good decision, regardless.
Yeah, it was a very good decision. So we've been married almost 30 years, and dated for a few years before that, out of college, or in college, out of college, and this kind of crazy little business started as a landscape project in Saratoga. Dave got his start, I would say, from a little company called Intel.
Heard of
people?
them.
People may have heard, but I don't know. It's just it's just one of these little valley companies. But anyways, he always he loved wine. He's an engineer, electrical engineer, and just really he has a passion for everything he does, and that certainly has spilled over into the wine part of it. And he ended up building a house in Saratoga, and that the landscape architect, said, "Well, why don't we plant some wildflowers or something?" And he wrinkled his nose at that and said, "You know what? This is wine country. How about a vineyard?" And he was pretty, he didn't know what to do with that, so he said, let's go talk to Jeffrey Patterson up on the hill,
Mount Eden
Vineyards. So, definitely have some heritage, some history, with winemaking. I mean, it goes, those vineyards go back well over 100 years. And I said, let's continue that legacy. Put these, this must be good wine country. Obviously, it's doing well. From the property, we can see Ridge Vineyards, Mount Eden Vineyards, the old Mount Martin Ray, Paul Masson Vineyards. So I mean, it's a very storied valley, and so it ended up, talking to consulting with Jeffrey. He was our early winemaker, and I learned a tremendous amount from him. But ended up putting these vineyards in, and they produced some really great wines. And this was back in 1998.
Okay.
So 25 years the vineyards have been in. Our first vintage was 2001. So it's exciting to have vines that are a quarter century old, as I can now say. It started producing some really good wine, and we were excited about it. Friends and family were excited about it, and we had more land in Saratoga, and we said, well, more must be better, right? So we put more vineyards in, and now we have about 10 acres. Okay. Total in Saratoga. So we're located in Saratoga. So
now, what is your official address, and do you have a website, obviously?
Absolutely. So our official address is 13336 Old Oak Way in Saratoga, 95070, California, obviously. And our website is housefamilyvineyards.com.
Okay.
So we try to keep some things simple. But
well, I will, full disclosure and transparency here, I have been to your winery. You have stunning wines, you have stunning vistas. I encourage everybody to go there any time of the year, whether it's any of the four seasons. It's a fantastic place. And kudos to your staff. I think that two of the people I dealt with there were related either by blood or marriage to what I'll call the family, and one, I think they were the third generation. But in any event, having three generations in any business in the Silicon Valley is the exception rather than the rule, and you guys are doing it. So that's great. Well, let's talk about something that I know you're proud of, not only the family connection, but the philosophy that you have as the winemaker, and that the winery has specifically. What is it, and what are they?
So I have a a mantra that I kind of live by, and it's something that I do every day, and it's make a better glass of wine, and how am I going to make a better glass of wine today, and you know it may not be necessarily in the cellar, doing something with the barrels or the wine, or something physical per se with the wine. It may be as simple as making sure that our dishwasher is working properly and our glassware is clean, or it's the right glassware, that's really going to lead to that wine. So it's every one of those details that really works. And it starts in the vineyard.
That's the step one. Yeah.
Yeah, step one. So I mean, it's there. And I was telling you earlier when we were kind of chatting, as we're taking over the farming of this new vineyard. It's not a new vineyard, but it's a vineyard I've worked with, and I'm very excited about because it's a Pinot Noir vineyard. It's got some really nice clones, and it's producing some really phenomenal wine. And taking over the farming of that really puts us in control, and that's really what this is. It's I always get a lot of the credit because I'm the winemaker, and people give you the credit for that. But my job is really, I shouldn't say it on, I shouldn't say the crude version, but is not to mess it up. I'm really the babysitter. I'm the one that makes sure that it gets from the vineyard to the glass in pristine condition. So the vineyard manager gets, our viticulturist, Jonathan Goodling, gets a lot of the credit. And so he's not always there because he's out in the field and that type of thing. But I always share that anytime, because wine is really made in the vineyard. And if we have pristine fruit, the wine just follows. The land abides. The climate, everything about it. The terroir. Just it all works together, and that's what we've always been based on is top quality wine. And then if you kind of package that up with beautiful vistas, the views of the Silicon Valley or the Santa Cruz Mountains, and then something else that's always near and dear to my heart is customer service. And so really great guest relations and kind of a warm welcome. It's just, you should feel like you're in our house, and you're just coming over for a glass of wine, and we should treat you that way, and everybody that you experience. And so we treat our staff, our crew. They're our family, and it's.
I think your customers are too.
Absolutely, we always call it the wine club. It's when they come in, we always kind of quip like, well, welcome to the family, and you can't get out. We're one of those kind of families, but no, we're not. But it's a fun thing, and people stay around a long time. It's the hospitality. It's that kind of that trifecta of high quality wine is really expresses the sense of place of where we're at. And it's not an ego thing for me, and there's lots of winemakers that their wines they're like, they taste winemaker-esque, and I've heard that described, and my wines taste like where they're grown. And because that's what I want you to do. I want you to travel to my vineyards in a glass.
Well, Jim, it sounds like from listening to you that you have a good philosophy, a good goal, and how you get there, your methodologies are you're very assiduous and detail oriented in all the steps, from step one, meaning okay, you got to prune them, whatever, to the harvest, the bottling, and to the customer service end, from A to Z. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Now we should tell our viewers and listeners, are all the grapes that you have for the various varietals, are they estate grown, or are they sourced from others, combination thereof? What are the different venues that they come from? And I think most of them, if not all of them, are in the Santa Cruz Mountains AVA. Is that correct?
A lot of them. That's a great question. We've kind of gone through an evolution, and I work with kind of a broad spectrum of fruit throughout California. And so there's a couple of special things. There's this wine on the end over there, this rosé, and that's actually Paso Robles fruit.
Okay.
So that comes from there. I work with Troy Javada. He's a fourth generation farmer down there, and I have a great relationship with him. And he always gets me. He does a lot of machine farming, which we don't do. but I love the way he farms, and he sneaks through the day before with his crew, hand picks me the best fruit. I get that, and then he comes through with the machines the next day, and he sells that off to everybody else. So I have a great relationship with him
You're the top of the list.
I get the cream of the crop. So,
well, that's good.
So I set the spec with him, and so I say, okay, this is what I'm looking for in terms of ripeness, and so he's really good about providing that, and so those that fruit it's just pristine, and I make that's a Grenache Mourvedre Rosé, and I also make a Grenache Syrah Mourvedre GSM with that fruit, and I also get some Zinfandel from him. So Paso, yeah.
So
as far south as I go.
Are we in what I call the Santa Cruz Mountains AVA for some of these here?
Yes. So my estate wines, the Cabernets, the Bordeaux's, that's kind of what we, that's our. That's our flagship is our Cabernet. We do have Chardonnay, so I do have an estate Chardonnay that we grow, and but I don't grow any Pinot. So my site is actually too warm to grow Pinot. If I would love to grow Pinot, it'd be fun to do it, but it's really just too warm, and so there's no point in trying to.
So where do you source it from?
So this is Santa Cruz Mountain. So it's several vineyards. So I have several vineyards. One is it's only about a half mile from me as a crow flies. It's right in Saratoga. Frank Casanova. He's probably the westerlymost house in Saratoga. He may be just in the county, just outside of Saratoga, but he's off of Mount Eden Road. And so that's a fairly big vineyard, and we're doing some really exciting things out of that vineyard.
Such as?
This year, so he's got, he just grafted over some Cabernet because it's warm in part of his site at the top, and it's a little too warm for the Pinot Noir, so he grafted over to this Cabernet. But I had some fun with the Pinot Noir, so I'm making a Blanc de Noir. So I picked early, and picked it for a little bit of acid, a little bit lower sugar, whole clusters, went right to press with it, so no skin contact, pressed it off, so it's, the grape juice is white and the skin contact makes it red, so this had no skin contact, so it's a Blanc de Noir, so a white of red or dark, and so, but it's not going to be sparkling, so it's traditionally
right.
That's
what they call sparkling or champagne. Yeah.
So it's going to be dry and still, and so that's one. And then I took the same fruit from the same pick of the day, destemmed it, let it have some skin contact, and we're going to do a rosé of the Pinot Noir. And then about 2 weeks later, we picked it, let it get a little riper, and I'm going to do a full Pinot Noir with it. So
you're getting a full, as you say, you've evolved, but you have a full range of wines from the same grape, just in a different manner.
Right. And that's just, being, kind of creative and looking to have fun with it and trying different stuff. And Frank's, it's fun to work with, vineyard owners and, that produce the fruit that are open to different styles. And, so I get to have fun. We get to produce some, different wines with that. We're also doing a pet nap, so a petulant natural. That's under, we just bottled that about 2 weeks ago, and that's done with some Cabernet Franc and Cabernet. Actually, the Cabernet from this vineyard we did a little bit of that Cabernet to do the pet nap, and then I'm doing a full Cabernet. So I'm really getting 5 wines out of this vineyard.
It seems to be, at least it's getting more press, that within the last 3 to 4 years, I'll call it a trend. It's really taken hold. The wave is well on the way to the shore, so to speak. Well, good. Well, I'm having a great conversation here with Jim Cargill, the COO and winemaker at House Family Vineyards. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about all of these beautiful wines here, where you can get them, where they can be purchased, and what Jim thinks about what's going to be happening with House Family Vineyards. What does he foresee in the next 5 years? Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Thank you to the Los Gatos Community Foundation for their continued support of KCAT Public Media. Because of groups like the Los Gatos Community Foundation, KCAT has been able to inspire, educate, entertain, and inform our community through the magic of television and digital media for over 38 years. Thank you.
We're back, and Jim, let's start talking about whichever order you want to go from these wines, but just give us a little about what's so unique about them. And I will say our viewers and listeners like to have a tip or two about food and wine pairing. So there you go. You're on.
So food and wine pairing is something that's very near and dear to my heart. I'm actually a chef, and I have my own restaurant. And I've been cooking, for about 4.5 decades professionally. I started very young in restaurants when I lived in San Diego, and I learned how to cook there. Went to culinary school. And cooking has always been something that's very, very near to my heart. And working in restaurants, wine was always kind of a part of that journey, and so the food pairings were always very important. And whenever I'm making a wine, when I'm in the cellar and I'm tasting through barrels and I'm kind of getting to know the wines, it's an evolution over the year. As they're aging in the cellar, and some are in barrels for a year, some are in barrels for 2 years. And as I'm tasting those wines, I like to be alone, and I like to think about them. I like to be present with them. I'm kind of working with the barrels, and so I'll taste each barrel. I'm taking notes. I always keep chalk in the cellars, and I put chalk notes on the heads of the barrels. And then when I come back and I start tasting these again, I don't look at my notes, and I want those notes to ring through, and so that I'm seeing some consistency in what I'm tasting. But I'm always typically thinking about food, and I can guarantee you every single wine and every single vintage has a dish that I'm thinking about as I'm making that. So
take us through the varietals and take us through the dishes. That's going to be amazing.
So it's so fun. The other question that I'll get asked is, what's your favorite? Well, they're all my children. And so it really comes down to what the temperature is, what I'm doing, what the occasion is, who I'm going to be with, and what I may be cooking. So any one of these can be my favorite at any one given time. I was at a dinner the other night. Actually, it was just last night, and I think we were drinking the Vintner's Reserve, which I believe is that one there. It's got the little purple label on it. So I've got two Cabernets, and they're both Bordeaux-style blends.
Okay.
So they generally range. These are estate fruit. Generally 78 to 80% Cabernet, 12% Merlot, and 6-7% Cabernet Franc.
Classic formula kind.
Yeah, and 2-3% Petit Verdot. Cabernet is it's a big grape, but it sometimes needs a little bit of taming, and so it needs some balance, and that's where kind of Merlot comes in. Merlot it's the crooner, it's the Frank Sinatra, it's smoother, it's more velvety, and it's going to tame things a little bit on the mid palate. Cabernet Franc's going to come in there, be a little more earthy, gravel, flinty, and it's going to kind of drive the earthy notes. And then you put the Petit Verdot in there, and that is just the that's always a tough grape for me, because it can sing out of tune if you're not careful. So it's always kind of like the sound guy on a band, making sure they're all singing in place. But the Petit Verdot gives a lot of good floral notes, kind of characters, and it really brings a lot to it, but a little goes a long ways. So it's that 2-3% can be a big difference. So these are again classic style Bordeaux blends. They're two different wines though. So the Vintner's Reserve, I have a lot of fun with that. I have fun with both, but the Vintner's Reserve I do barrel ferments, meaning that I take these oak barrels that I'm no longer using to barrel age wine. I'll pop the heads off of them. I will put my own toast on them. It takes me about 2 weeks to get these ready for harvest. So I'll get them all kind of stripped out and cleaned out, sanitized, and then I'll re-toast the barrels until I'm getting really nice aromas. So I toast them and I'm smelling them and working with them till I get the wood. It just smells good. So then they're kind of set for fermentation, and so I actually ferment in those open top ferment instead of the traditional stainless steel tanks where we do most of our fermentation. Really gets a lot of kind of these primary fruit aromas going. So this, these blackberries, this dark fruit, and everything kind of really jumps out, and just kind of wonderful flavors. And so that kind of differentiates it from the estate wine. I probably make about 100 cases, so not a lot of the Vintners Reserve. The kind of the flagship is the Cabernet Sauvignon, the estate Cabernet Sauvignon. And that is more of they're both food wines, but the Vintners Reserve is a little bit more of what I'd call a cocktail wine. It's a wine that you can drink on its own.
Drink alone.
Yeah, and it certainly pairs well with food, but if I'm doing a steak au poivre or some sort of maybe a tomahawk ribeye or something like that, I'm going to the estate.
The other one. Okay.
Yeah, that's the one that's going to be. It's not going to challenge the food, but it's going to complement and work there with it. So I mean that's those are kind of how they're built. I build them differently because they're just two wines for two different occasions.
Well, thank you for explaining that because it's an important difference. Well, how about this pair here? What do we got there?
So Pinots are near and dear to my heart. I love Burgundy wines, and so the Pinot Noirs, the red Burgundy, and I kind of embarked on this program. I don't know, about 15, 16 years ago, and trying to find vineyards that I could work with. And what my idea was, there was a lot of people that said, I can't tell the difference between red and white wine. I said, I guarantee you can. And they certainly said, I can't tell the different varieties. And a Pinot from a Cabernet or a Chardonnay, just smelling them or tasting them, blind. If you were just doing this blind, and I said, I bet you can. I love to educate people, and I love to surprise people in that they know more about wine than they think they do, just because we all have senses. So we can all smell, we can taste, and we can see. So what I did is I found these vineyards, and it took some research and time, but there was one in Monterey, one in the Galley Vineyards, that's in the South Santa Cruz Mountains.
Correct. Right.
Then there's Camel Hill, which is kind of by Lexington Reservoir, so actually not too far from here. I mean, about 5-10 minutes from here. And then all the way far north into the Petaluma Gap, which is in Sonoma.
Wow.
The Saltonstall Vineyard. All three of them are about 5 to 7 miles off the coast of California. They're all similar elevations, sandy loam soil, so similar soil structures, clones. So the clones of the fruit are all the same. So they're the 115, 667, and 777, which are classic Dijon clones from France. These, what I wanted to do is I wanted to have basically the same ingredients, the same winemaker, but people to be able to differentiate where they were grown. And you can absolutely, if I put all these wines together, on a table in front of somebody, very novice wine drinkers can smell them, and they're just so excited.
So they're not blends from the various.
No.
They're totally 100% from
Single
each.
vineyards.
Oh, interesting.
So I do all single vineyard wine.
Okay.
Even while this is a blend, it comes from the same vineyard. I mean, they're literally grown in the same vineyard. So these are all single vineyard sites. So if I put 3 or 4 of these wines, and there's about 150 miles of coastal California that you can experience in this kind of setup. It's really wonderful, and people's eyes are just like, they smell so different. They're remarkably different. And I said, same exact ingredients. Same exact ingredients.
Yeah.
Same clones, same oak program, oak regime. They were all treated the same. They kind of grew up in the same household, and the fermentation process was similar. So all speaking of that, all these wines are native inoculation. So I don't use commercial yeast. I want that to
That's
kind
what I
of
was going to
express
ask
itself.
you. There's the terms organic, sustainable, dry farming. What are you? All of them? Or?
Those, yes. So we farm. We're not certified organic. It's I'm not much into titles and that type of thing, and so but we farm organically.
In that method. Yeah.
And you have to be there's a whole certification that you have to do. You have to keep up with that. There's a lot of paperwork and that type of thing. But the right thing to do is farm organically. So there's a lot of pesticides, and I don't want to run down that rabbit hole, but it's the right thing to do for the planet. I'm working with the city of Saratoga, with the Parks and Rec Department, to get rid of pesticide use and go to more mechanical means. So really trying to help the city out, not only our own vineyards, but reaching out, citywide and doing.
You're
that.
doing the right thing.
It's inconvenient, but it's the right thing to do, and I want to be able to tell my kids, my grandkids, and my great grandkids that I did the hard work, so they have a clean planet.
Good.
So.
Well, we talked kind of sort of about the rosé from Paso. Is this a Chardonnay here?
That's Chardonnay, so it's 100% Chardonnay, and that's estate as well. And I work with a couple of Chardonnay vineyards, but primarily our own estate vineyards, and those are that's just a wine that I love. It gives me some challenges. It's a little bit difficult to grow in my vineyard. It's a little bit warm, so we have to be creative with the canopy and how we work the vineyard, how we keep the fruit protected.
Regulate the sunlight. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Where the Cabernet, it's rough and tumble. I mean, that's the 8-year-old boy. It's just like, skin, knees, everything. I mean, you hit the vine with a tractor and it pops back up and keeps growing. I mean, you can
Very hardy.
Yeah, super hardy. I mean, Cabernet, you can be pretty rough with it, and it's very forgiving. Whereas Pinot Noir, you got to put the gloves on and really treat it well, and it'll
sounds like you are. Well, back to the Chardonnay briefly. Sure. I'm not going to use the word favorite. I'm not going to use the word preferred. Just what's a complimentary pairing or two of some food or appetizers, whatever, for that's at least makes you happy.
So I've got 2 Chardonnays that I do. I have 2 different styles. So I do a Vintner's Reserve and our Estate Chardonnay. The Vintner's Reserve, I take it and I'll take several select barrels, and when I talked about chalking the barrels and making certain notes to that, certain barrels will sing to me. They'll talk to me, and certain blocks of wine. So a block is a particular area that we're growing, and we have different blocks, and they're all different each year. They'll taste different, manifest different. Each vintage is different. So and again, I don't make a whole lot of it, but what I do is when I rack the barrels for kind of towards bottling, and racking is just the simple process of there's a bulldog device that you put down into it's kind of like a straw, and you push it out with nitrogen, so it's an inert gas, and you push this out. But in the bottom is what's called lees, and that's just kind of all the settled out sediment. The dead yeast cells and that type of thing. It's wonderful smelling and tasting and everything. I mean, you don't really want it in the wine per se. But what I do with is I collect all that lees, and I take a couple of my select barrels and I throw those back in a stainless barrel, and I take all this lees and I throw it back into the wine, and I let it age for another year, and it goes through kind of a secondary process where it really, all those lees richen the mouthfeel, and so this the Vintner's Reserve has a much richer mouthfeel than the Estate. The Estate is a wonderful food pairing wine. And if I'm doing, like a lemon chicken, like a thyme lemon chicken, something, stripped back salads, fish, kind of lighter fish. But if I want a heavier dish, maybe I'm having some triple cream bries, or heavier foods, or maybe like a halibut with a beurre blanc sauce that's going to be a much richer sauce. I'm going to want that Vintner's Reserve for that, because it has the mouthfeel in the mid palate to be able to keep up with the heavier fat in the food. And that's very important when you pair foods, is that you have a wine that works with the food profile that you're eating. So whether it's the acid, higher fat, richer, leaner, you want the wine to kind of pair up with that, and that's very important and key with wine and food pairings.
As you said it moments ago, the food is on your brain when you're making the wine.
Absolutely.
That's great. Well, speaking of your wine, people are going to know where they can purchase your wonderful wine, and is it your vineyard? Is it online? What platform or platforms are the most accessible to the public?
Sure. We sell mostly direct to consumer. We're blessed to have a very robust wine club. So we have well over 1,000 members that have been very loyal to us, but loyal for a reason, because of the quality, the service, the package that we put together, and the consistency. I believe in being very consistent with that year in and year out, and vintages change, and that's the exciting thing. So most of it sold directly right at the winery. So coming directly to the winery is the place to get it. You can get it online. We're starting to branch out some. We're not in any of these stores locally right now. We're working on that just to get some presence, because there's days of the week that somebody says, well, I just want to go pick up one of these, and there's a few local bottle shops that we'll probably eventually get into, but we had some presence in there a few years ago, but we're mostly direct to consumer right at the vineyard.
Okay.
So,
and I presume you have a wine club.
yes.
So
Yes.
tell us about that briefly, and what are there's got to be some perks and pluses, obviously.
Well, the perks are you get to drink this wine. So it's a wonderful club, and it's actually a very easy sell when people come up to visit the vineyard for the first time, or maybe several times if they're local. It's just the club the benefit of the club is that we offer complimentary tastings for up to four people each time, whenever we're open. So that's there's a huge value there. It's 2-3 bottle shipments a year, so if you can drink 6 bottles of wine a year, you're in the club. And there's a discount on the bottles, a 15% discount right off the top.
Good.
And you get preferential reservations and that type of thing. And there's wine club events that we do. And then there's things that we have our wine club list that anything special that we're doing. Sometimes we'll have library wines that will. I kind of get crazy. My general manager hates it when I do this, but I just
You dip into them. Yeah.
I dip into them, and I was like, hey, this is what we're offering today, and this is what I want to drink, and I'm gonna share it with everybody. And she's got to scramble to go get it, but she's really good about that, and that's Stephanie, and
That's
she,
great.
I think you've talked to her, and she's around most.
I will
most
have
days.
my personal opinion, and I've been to a lot of wineries and tasted a lot of wine, and the customer service that is present, it just seems so natural. And I'm watching the other people who are there, whether they're wine club members or not. They're all having a good time, and they're very engaged with your staff. And your staff is very informative, educational, and fun. And so you're hitting all cylinders. So keep it up.
Good.
Well, before we close out here, the big question, and this is a question I ask of all our winemakers and owners. So where do you foresee what's out there in the future, say the next 5 years, for House Family Vineyards? Is it increase in production, expanding the varietals that you do, or what? What can we expect from you? You're nailing it now, but what can we expect from you?
Well, I'm really excited. If anybody that knows a little bit of the history of us, we're currently going through a permit process with the city of Saratoga. It's been a very long process. We're looking to build a wine cave and, kind of be able to increase our production and, kind of really keep up. So that's an exciting process, except that it's taken a very long time. And so
It may take the whole 5 years.
I hope it doesn't take the whole
Right.
5 years. I don't know. Yeah, it's I believe we're gonna get that this year, and so we'll be able to expand out and kind of get open back up. We had kind of a wonderful wine tasting facility. Where you've experienced it is our original wine tasting area. So we have 2 different areas on the property. We have a total of 73 acres. So we have 2 areas that we taste in, and so we're kind of utilizing that one kind of during this construction phase. So we're really hoping to get back to our
To the main site.
Yeah, to the main site and get this cave built and kind of get that'll be really exciting. So I'm hoping in the next 5 years that is really the buzz and excitement that really helps. It'll make my job easier on a daily basis, to have a nice cave with flat spot, because we're mountainous and we just don't have a lot of flats to work on, and so there's a lot of curves in those hills. That it makes wonderful wine, but it also makes it challenging to work. So. And just really focusing in our efforts on the quality of the wine, the customer service, and and the views obviously speak for themselves. but just really kind of standing behind the the wine and the brand, and kind of taking this forward. And 5-10 years, I've got 4 kids, and as I said earlier, it's a legacy business. So my father-in-law and I, we're partnered up in it. We talk every single day. His grandkids have all worked in the business. I think you've met my brother-in-law who works there as well. My sister-in-law has done it. I mean, everybody in the family has done it. So 3 generations, my nieces, nephews, have all worked in it. And one of them may go out after going out in the world, graduating, and go out and work for a little bit, which I encourage all of them to do. May come back around and say, hey, Dad, talk to you about that wine business. And
there'll be a 4th generation, hopefully.
Yes,
Great.
exactly.
Well, Jim, thank you so much for all. Just been fantastic. And all this talk about wine, I think I'm going to go home and open a bottle. Maybe one of yours.
I think so.
Cheers.
Cheers. Great talking.
Thanks for coming in.
Cheers.